Hello, everyone. I'm Jessie Bang on the marketing team here at AnyRoad, and I want to thank you for joining us today. We've been monitoring how brands have been using virtual events and experiences, and we're going to share ideas and insights that we've been tracking so that you can start using them in your plans for next year. Your presenter today is Michael O'Connell. Michael, you want to introduce yourself?
Thanks for the intro. Well, I've got a little echo. Where it's gone. Thanks for the intro, Jesse. I'm Michael O'Connell. As Jesse said, I'm head of marketing here at AnyRoad. I'm really excited to start sharing this content with you. We've been collecting ideas and insights from across the web and from AnyRoad's customers for virtual events and experiences that we think are going to be valuable for you to learn about. There are plenty more plays and ideas where this comes from. So if there's stuff that you see today that resonates and that you'd like to see more of, feel free to send me an email. My email is moc@anyroad.com, and we can give you some more ideas and inspiration. But first, let's go into some housekeeping. The first is audio can be configured using the audio settings tab on the bottom left of the Zoom window. You can type a question at any time in the Q&A tab. We're going to be answering the questions at the end. It allows us to keep the flow of the presentation pretty consistent. Finally, the presentation is being recorded, and a copy of the slides as well as the recording will be sent to you within 24 hours of the completion of the webinar. We love a little bit of social engagement, so feel free to mention us on Twitter and use the hashtag experiential to get a bit of conversation going. It always makes it a little bit more interactive and exciting. So for those less familiar, AnyRoad as a company was founded in 2013, and we're an experiential data platform that helps brands scale and optimize their customer experiences that really just change consumer behavior. So companies like Budweiser, like Honda, like Michaels and Tabasco all count on AnyRoad from anything from brand activations to events to online classes and virtual experiences. I'm excited to see many of our customers on the line today, and many more have signed up. So we'll see folks kind of trickle through over the next couple of minutes. But thanks again, all of you, for joining. And we'll get started and jump into the content now. So, one of the things that we definitely know, and we really strongly believe that here at AnyRoad, is that online experiences are here to stay. And we'll address this over the next couple of slides. But, from a consumer perspective, this chart from the New York Times, it's actually back in April, talked about how consumers might be hesitant to participate in some of the activities that they loved before the pandemic happened. And while there's widespread frustration with the restrictions that we've been placed under, 60% of people are going to be reluctant to go back to the movies, for example. And for this poll, what was really surprising to me is that 22% of respondents would not ride public transport even before COVID. And so, although this is a New York Times poll, I would say that the majority of respondents are not from New York or London, as you can't get around those cities without public transport. So interesting data point, and there's more research like this out there. Although we're seeing kind of pandemic fatigue and people letting their guard down a little bit more, people are definitely still concerned that until there's a vaccine in place or widespread recovery, you're going to see a slower return to normal than would have been expected otherwise. So one of the driving forces behind these virtual events and online experiences is the ability to connect with consumers who are seeking community online. And so where once people were going to the park, the pub, or the club, instead they've turned online, and we've seen apps like Nextdoor, like House Party, like Zoom for all surge in popularity. And brands are embracing this. And so, we see this quote from the former CEO of Michaels stores. Since community is very important to our customers, they want to share and learn with other makers. And Michaels, as a retailer for makers and crafters, have made a multi-year investment in classes and community. And this has helped them maintain momentum and even build momentum through the crisis. And as an AnyRoad customer, I want to give the Michaels team a big shout out, because I know how hard they've worked to get their online experiences program up and running. And we talked about momentum, so much momentum that the Michaels stock has seen, record earnings and stock price surges over the course of the year. So it's nice to see that these types of investments pay off on the bottom line and from a revenue and growth perspective as well. So another sector where we see the need for community being very strong is fitness. Peloton's business has been booming as it appeals to many aspects of the human psyche, a desire for wellness, a desire for competitiveness, and a desire for community. And so while, I haven't indulged in purchasing a Peloton, I've seen many of my friends have, and I've seen a lot of social media posts about how much enjoyment they're getting from it. But this popularity has impacted their share price. I presented this same slide back in April, and the stock was already surging at $36. It's now at 116. And so as experiential marketers, this proves that we can add value and maintain relevance, even as society is changing and becoming digitally transformed. So the innovation that we've seen from consumers and from marketers around online experiences makes us believe that they are very much here to stay. And I'll caveat this with a note that while we think that in-person experiences are the most impactful way to change customer behavior, online events are filling a very specific need right now. And the quality and ingenuity that we're seeing is definitely improving. I would say that we're also believe that hybrid online and offline events are going to begin to emerge as we reopen. Indeed, one of the examples and plays that we're going to present later on is also a hybrid event. And I think there's a term that's been used kind of almost as a bit of a cliche, and that's that we're bringing the future forward with all of these online and digital experiences that are out there. As consumers are going to continue to spend more time on devices and online, and we have to adapt our event strategies to engage them. So we do think that you should definitely invest in online interactive experiences if you haven't already, as they fulfill a need for connection. They diversify the experiential marketing experience programs that you have. They deliver high quality real-time content as opposed to pre-recorded content. There's plenty of material that's super high quality on YouTube and Vimeo. And this is almost overwhelming. So I think is this high quality real-time content that's live produced becomes more interactive. Another point that I think is important to notice is that you can increase your reach significantly to new audiences who may not be able to visit your in-person properties. If you're a distillery brand home and you want to do online tastings, you can reach a much broader audience than folks that may be able to visit your location. If you're a store with a physical retail footprint in North America, or you may be able to reach folks in Latin America or internationally in Europe with your message and content. And finally, we're seeing online experiences as actually a revenue generator for many brands. They're seeing it as a way to monetize and cover the costs of some of their physical infrastructure. And so whether it's for generating direct revenue for things like classes and tastings, whether you want to drive donations, or simply just you want to drive engagement and positive awareness during these kind of uncertain times, I do think that there's plenty of benefits that will make this stick around for many years to come. So while online experiences are definitely here to stay, people are becoming weary of video calls and Zoom. And Zoom fatigue is very much a thing that brands must recognize. And how they recognize this is making sure that the online experiences that we do produce are super high quality and highly engaging. I'll illustrate with my friend, this is Hide the Pain Harold. He's a Hungarian gentleman who's become a very popular internet meme. it's very common for people to be completely overwhelmed with Zoom calls during the day. So much so that the last thing they want to do is socialize over something like Zoom. So if brands want to overcome this resistance, they need to make sure that they have a clear strategy for making online experiences as interactive and engaging as real world ones, to the best of their ability, that is. So starting with engagement, you do need to first understand where online experiences and virtual events can fit into your plans. And so I like to illustrate this with a standard funnel slide, as it helps to illustrate some of the decision points around the types of content that you're going to produce. So for example, experiences that want to build loyalty tend to be a little bit more personalized. Top of funnel brand activations really try to seek out scale. And so you're going to need to match the strategies and the tactics that you run here to make sure you deliver the best experiences. So however, once you determine which online experiences and how they fit into your brand, the downstream decisions get much easier in terms of how you plan and execute. So for instance, when you want to choose a technology to deliver experiences, there are dozens, hundreds potentially of options out there, from social channels like Facebook Live and YouTube to specialized video software like Zoom, GoToMeeting, and Microsoft Teams. So if you know which customers in the funnel you're trying to convert, choosing the right tech becomes easier. So you figured out what types of events you want to run and what your goals are. Another thing you need to think about is how to take a multi-sensory approach to online experiences. And this will make them more impactful and certainly more memorable. So at AnyRoad, we believe all experiential activations should trigger at least 3 senses to be effective. So you have sight and sound captured by default with online experiences, but in order to be multi-sensory, brands must get creative with the other senses. And so in this vein, when thinking about how to make an experience what we call 3D, 3 senses at least triggered, the team at AnyRoad leans on our personal experience, so as well as feedback from marketers, and more recently we've started to think about cognitive science, and specifically a concept called embodied cognition. And so embodied cognition is the idea that without conscious awareness, our bodily sensations help determine the decisions we make. And so the principles of this theory are very applicable in real world experiential marketing. So an example could be if you're a wine fan or a wine drinker and you're visiting a winery, does the wine taste better than it would in your own kitchen? I certainly think it does, and particularly if the winery is nice and you're outdoors in the sunshine. It's far more likely after an experience like that you're going to purchase a subscription-based wine club membership or extra bottles of wine based on how enjoyable that experience was. And so these same theories can be carried over to online experiences, but they just need a little bit of extra creativity. And indeed, actually, I think I got targeted by an ad from Uber Eats yesterday, where Uber Eats were trying to promote, selling Uber Eats vouchers to your virtual events attendees, so that they can enjoy food during your live calls. Now that's super creative, and I think it's definitely something I would consider. But I think many of the things that we'd like to encourage is how do you make sure that your product gets in the hands of your attendees? And that's something that we'll happily talk about if you have any questions. So I think, and a good example of what's been happening online has been, now that we've been focused on staying at home, we've been so-called nesting to improve the homes that we live in. And so, brands like Lowe's and Home Depot and Ace Hardware have seen record earnings over the last number of months. And there's an opportunity for them to make sure they engage their buyers. And indeed, Home Depot have been running some great online experiences. But I've actually seen some real ingenuity from some of the smaller brands. And so take Fleetwood Paints. They're an Irish paint manufacturer based in County Cavan in Ireland. And so they've made a number of partnerships with interior designers and influencers. And so they offer tester pots, which can be ordered by mail to accompany paid color consultations with these interior designers and design influencers. And so once the consumer has picked their colors, they can avail of curbside pickup at one of Fleetwood's available affiliated retailers. And so I think this combination of your direct product and online experiences doesn't have to be extremely taxing. So a small marketing team of about 5 people, I think, at Fleetwood Paints is able to execute this at reasonable scale. And it shows that both big brands and small brands are able to innovate in this way. And so I did a very detailed post about multisensory marketing and embodied cognition. So we'll make sure we include that in the follow-up to see if it's something that's useful for you. All right, I've been talking for a good chunk now. We wanted to do a quick poll as I'm curious to see if any of you could run multisensory in your marketing mix today. So let me launch this quick poll, and I'd love to get your responses. Can everyone see that poll? No, I think I might. I do that wrong. Let me do that again. Relaunch poll.
I can see it, Michael.
No, what I did there, apologies, folks, I launched the results versus the poll. So I did a practice session earlier on, and what that meant was I had to relaunch the poll. So lots of people coming through. So thank you all for engaging with this. I'm going to keep it open for another little while. 158 people, 160. We're almost at stat sig here. If we could get to 200, I'll include this in my next blog post. All right, what's one more? I'm gonna 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. So most people, 50% of folks are saying yes, they could take a multisensory approach. Some of you are saying that it's probably not feasible at this time, and then others are unsure. And I think if you're unsure, definitely check out my embodied cognition blog post. It gives you, multiple examples of how to leverage multisensory in any of your marketing tactics. So I do think it depends on your brand. It depends if you're an agency. It also depends on your customer brands and their products and how you can use them. So thank you very much, folks, for engaging in that. Okay, so our next topic is really that as marketers, we need to think a little bit more like scientists and experiment. And really what I mean by that is that we can take business experimentation to our experiential marketing. And it definitely goes beyond, the A/B testing that you hear about for websites. We're not talking about button colors on a CTA. We're talking about how to quickly roll out and test new experience concepts and new virtual events concepts in this instance. And so I like to point to an age-old method of capturing and acquiring data we call the scientific method. And so this method has characterized the development of science since at least the 17th century, and it involves 5 steps to come to a scientific conclusion. And so the first of those is make an observation. And so an example of that could be we're seeing increasing traffic on our site from Canada, but have no Canadian stores. 2, ask a question. And so that could be, how can we sell more product to these Canadian visitors? 3, we could form a hypothesis or a testable idea. So if I promote an online experience to our Canadian audience, will they attend? 4, we're going to make a prediction based on the hypothesis. So I predict that Canadians will attend and their post-experience intent to purchase will be high. 5, test that prediction. And then the 6th step, which is technically not part of the scientific method, is iterate. So if the test is successful and you get good quality results, use those results to form new hypotheses or new predictions that you can then go and test. So another example here is, if I offer free shipping to these attendees, will they be more likely to convert? And so what I like about the scientific method is it allows us to put data behind the decisions we make, but it also provides data that makes it easier for us to collaborate with other teams and other individuals in our organization by, like, for example, is like, hey, if we offer free shipping and we offer a bundle discounting in here, you're going to want to work with the logistics team to be able to facilitate that. So this type of data-driven information allows us to test these concepts and reduce risk. So that deliberate process is something that I think that we should all strive to do as marketers. And by treating our work as experiments, again, we de-risk. So as we're all being kind of asked to continuously move fast and innovate right now, given all the change that's going on, this is a nice way to de-risk that and enable more agile decision making. All right, so I'm going to jump into some data and insights before we discuss the plays. This first piece of data is coming from some research that we did. So this research has basically involved monitoring how brands and our customers are using online events and virtual experiences. And we've tracked over 200 since the pandemic began. And what we've been looking for here is general trends with virtual events, and also insights that we can provide our customers and indeed any prospects or marketers out there that are interested in this topic. So if you'd like to discuss in more detail, we're really providing a kind of a superficial overview of this data. I'm happy to jump into it more with you if anyone wants to reach out directly. So in regards to the research, we sprinkle some commentary in there from our own proprietary product insights and information, but most of the research is gathered from simple social listening, Google search, and reading of trade publications. So we have a little bit of bias in the data towards CPG brands and retail, as that's where we have a large customer footprint. And for the most part, we've left out B2B marketing examples, as we want to cover this later. And that's a vertical that's really been embracing mediums such as webinars and virtual trade shows for some time. And I do have a survey that I completed in November, which is over 200 responses, which has a good footprint of B2B marketers in there. So we'll make sure that we have insights for anyone that's in B2B in the new year. Okay, so first up, food and beverage CPG is far and away leading the pack into those that have started to adopt online experiences. And we suspect this is because many of these brands have remained fully operational throughout COVID, and that people are cooking and drinking more at home than ever before. We're seeing this type of popularity as well with a surge in online cooking classes and on-demand content on the likes of YouTube. So this is not just applicable to these online experiences. We're also seeing a surge in content that's recorded and on demand. But food and beverage really lends itself well to the online medium. And I think that lessons and classes require lower production value and they work really well. So we're going to see, one of my favorite examples of this was we see holiday and festive examples of online experiences. And for Cinco de Mayo, we had a combination of Mario Lopez with Uber Eats and Chipotle showcase how to make some of Mario's favorite Cinco de Mayo recipes and margaritas. So what I liked about this was it combined, again, an experiential marketing team with an influencer marketing team and a celebrity marketing team to try and increase the reach and really generate lots of top of funnel awareness for Uber Eats offering and for Chipotle's products. So another thing that we're seeing is that classes are the preferred format. Brand activations is a very broad term, but a lot of the brand activations that we are treating in here are top of funnel awareness activities. But classes are definitely something that we're seeing the highest amount of adoption for. And I think this is because classes work at so many different stages of the funnel. And so production values can be a little bit lower here. And it's also an easy way to get started with online experiences where customers are craving that interactive interactivity that they've been lacking through in-person experiences. And so I mentioned Michael's earlier on as being a brand that's done a wonderful job of engaging their community. And so they've been hosting online classes on a range of topics such as cry-cut, crochet, and painting. And they're seeing that the ability to follow along and even showcase work in the form of shout outs during class is adding an extra layer of interactivity to their classes. And it's also allowed the folks that attend these sessions to feel a little bit more connected and engaged with the material and with the brand. And so they actually see a very low drop off for their online classes because they're so engaging and interactive. And so although classes are easing out activations, we're seeing an opportunity here for marketers to make production easier on activations and look for ways to make them more interactive, which we're going to touch on in the plays shortly. So in regards to online platforms, this one was actually quite surprising to me. Instagram is the most popular platform in use by brands. Streets ahead of Facebook, but pretty close to YouTube and neck really with Zoom. And so there are some platforms and brands that have opted for custom technology, and some brands are used to using multiple tools. But when in terms of the volume of experiences based on experience count in our research, we're seeing Instagram Live edge out the competition. I suspect we'll see Zoom start to overtake Instagram Live as Zoom builds out some of their functionality for at-scale programs. And so if you change the type of event to more private or intimate, such as a birthday party or a private distillery tour, Zoom definitely dominates here. And so it offers the opportunity to customize the platform with company branding and integrate with other products and platforms such as AnyRoad at home for easy pre-registration and sign up. All right. So something that we get actually asked a lot is, should I charge for my online experience? And I'm sure I'll get that question a little bit later on, so I won't give the game away, but the vast majority of what we're seeing online has been free, but we're also seeing an increasing number of providers charge for premium experiences. And the charge is often linked to the purchase of a sensory item. So you may get a free wine tasting, but what's the point in doing the wine tasting or the whiskey tasting or the beer tasting without actually having the product? We're also seeing events linked to charitable donations and sometimes other types of donation in the case of political events. So a great example of this might be a restaurant who would include a meal kit in the price of a ticket to a cooking class. And it's a great way also to engage the guests while the chef is presenting. So if you'd like to drill into this data more, the full online experience idea list is now available on AnyRoad's website. I'll make sure that you all get that link afterwards. And it's possible to actually filter this list and get more insights for your brand or vertical. I've got a bunch of pivot tables and charts in there. And if you'd like to discuss it further, again, just ping me directly and I'll see what I can do to help you. And if you do end up using it, please give us a shout out and share it on your social profiles, as the more ideas and examples like this that get shared in our community, I think the more interesting concepts and events that we're going to see coming down the line. So one of the things I picked up, actually, I got a question from folks directly about this, is why would we check NPS prior to this event or experience? And that's a very, very good question. It was one I asked myself when I joined AnyRoad just over 9 months ago. And it's actually, we use it to establish a metric called brand conversion. And this is something that's very popular amongst our customers. And what brand conversion is, it's a measurement of how effective your experiences have been at turning visitors into brand advocates. We typically use this survey question before and after the experience, and it's often correlated with post-experience net promoter score, but it gives brand specific results and insights on the behavioral change. So I've, again, material available on our blog about brand conversion. I can go into a lot of detail on it, but for us, as we're trying to engage a lot of new folks here and some of our customers, we want to make sure that the general sentiment is good or bad in terms of making this actionable for us. Interesting as well, as because we track this across the our hundreds of customers and the many hundreds of thousands of folks that have attended online experiences with us over the last 6 to 9 months. It turns out that real life experiences are indeed much more popular, and they have a higher brand conversion rate than online ones. But this isn't surprising in itself, but what we had seen is as a narrowing of that delta. And we expect that trend to probably stay relatively flat, but we do expect that people will have higher satisfaction with really good quality online experiences. It's hard to substitute out some of these multi-sensory in-person events and experiences. So I do think that this delta does show me that, and it provides a data point that online experiences are certainly worth the investment in terms of engaging and driving, creating brand advocates. So with all those insights over and done with, I want to take this opportunity to walk you through the plays. And so these are hypothetical examples which the AnyRoad team have created. They do mirror events and experiences that we've either supported our customers on directly or discussed with them. And so we're happy to chat with folks offline if you want to learn more. So the first play is an exclusive wine tasting, which is a personalized experience with a sensory component enabled by direct mail. And so B2B brands spend a lot on corporate hospitality, and that spend has slowed since COVID. And so while corporate happy hours, have taken off, where you kind of bring all your colleagues in and have a little bit of an engaging atmosphere, we're not seeing as much of this from a hospitality perspective. So bringing customers and prospects for an experience. Although I do note over the kind of holiday period, many of our customers have started to offer these private tastings, and B2B brands have been taking them up for their customers. So for this hypothetical example, the brand partners with Rain Wines, which is produced by Carlo and Dante Mandavi, to host an exclusive tasting for their business executives and customers. So the group is kept pretty small at around 15 people, and includes a dedicated moderator as well as a host from the brand. And this is super important to make sure that the flow and the structure of the event and experience goes really well. And so the play utilizes Zoom, including the breakout room functionality, as well as a tasting gift set sent via direct mail. And the goal here would be to increase brand loyalty, and we'd be looking at measuring what the brand conversion rate for attendees is. We'd also want to track intent to purchase and track down funnel sales in the CRM and what the impact on direct revenue was. And so I also, definitely a couple of examples of this in our idea list, including one from Sea Ray Boats, who did a lovely wine tasting event recently. But indeed, this example could apply to breweries, distilleries, retailers, restaurants. I know of a bar chain here in San Francisco that does a wonderful job of doing online cocktail classes. And so I think this is a really, very versatile play that many different people can do. So an event like this would require a really good audiovisual setup for the brand. So we do recommend using multiple cameras and really, really good lighting. Zoom is an ideal product for this, as it supports multiple cameras, and the breakout rooms are an excellent feature. On the experience side, the attendees would receive personalized registrations and are asked to confirm their shipping address for the direct mail. These invites and registration forms would include insight captures for NPS and brand affinity. You could even upgrade the experience and allow attendees to purchase more than the bottles that they're getting for free. And during the live experience, the sponsor would open the meeting with a couple of slides and do some round the room intros before handing over to the winemaker to lead the tasting. And after each wine is tasted, the group would then break out into the breakout rooms to compare notes and network. I think this is important because, you know, a group of 15 talking over one another can be pretty difficult and honestly frustrating for the experience. So if you break that group up into smaller groups, it enables more interactive dialogue. So an extra element of interactivity could be added at this point, which could add some gamification. So the team that guesses the wine tasting notes of the wine gets, you know, additional wine or some sort of prize to encourage that kind of team dynamic. After the event, follow-up emails would get sent out with surveys and coupons, for example, for wine club membership. That data then would be loaded into the brand's Salesforce for additional tracking and measurement. So we recently ran this play, and my colleague Robert Cerna, who many of you know, is also a professional sommelier, and he ran the tasting, and he just wrote a blog post talking about his insights and learnings from that. So we'll pop that into the follow-up email too. Lots of homework. Our second play is a live music with backstage passes event, and so that would include a large-scale music activation with a backstage pass for VIPs. And so for those who are unfamiliar, do check out the NPR Tiny Desk concert series. Recently, John Legend participated and gave a wonderful performance on Instagram Live. So you should definitely check out that if you haven't seen it before. So in this example, we'll opt for a combination of Zoom plus YouTube Live with our 100 or so invite-only VIPs and about 50,000 folks on the main stage on YouTube Live. And so the musician would definitely need a host who could introduce them, drive engagement and interactivity. I've definitely seen musicians struggle to multitask in this regard. You know, you can't have them controlling the camera and the AV in addition to trying to play their music and engage the audience. A little bit of help here makes an enormous difference. And so as with most large-scale activations, the goal here would be to increase reach and drive engagement. And so for that, we could look at the percentage of guests who are new to the brand and also look at post-purchase, post-experience intent to purchase. So for a sensory component, a souvenir mailer could be sent to the attendees with a poster, and a curated Spotify playlist could be sent afterwards. So before we go into the details, I actually want to showcase one of the coolest features of Zoom. It's possible to live stream pre kind of configured YouTube and Facebook accounts. So you can, with a couple of clicks, as long as you're pre-configured those account connections, you can automatically stream to Facebook and YouTube. And so this allows you to increase your reach significantly and create kind of multi-track plays. And so if this is something that is interesting to you, there are specialized agencies that can allow you to get even more advanced. So you could stream beyond Facebook and YouTube to things like Twitch and to other platforms. And what's encouraging here is that so much is possible really out of the box with Zoom. It's a wonderful platform that ticks a lot of boxes, and this is why it was the first platform that AnyRoad integrated with when we started to develop our online and virtual events offering. So it is the one that we typically recommend first over other platforms. So how exactly would this work? Well, I think each experience would need to have its own marketing plan because the goals are slightly different. So for main stage, you'd employ a large multi-channel promotion, which would take place with the aim of driving high volume registrations. And it's important to note here that there definitely would be some leakage in registrations and tracking because YouTube Live is an open platform and the content would be discoverable for those who are not registered. But a good marketing plan should get a high percentage of the folks that attend this to have been registered in advance. And you could incentivize that with something like a direct mail or add some exclusivity to that kind of, I suppose, value exchange of a customer or consumer providing their data. And so the brand or artist would absolutely need a top-notch audio setup. I think we've spec'd this here. I've seen, multiple, I suppose, fails here due to small pieces of tech not being right. For example, out of the box, your Mac microphone or the microphone here picks up a lot of background audio. Professional setups would use proper audio encoders that make sure high definition audio is getting into the streaming feed. The backstage experience could be heavily personalized, and you could bring in influencers, distributors, or partners into this, whatever constitutes a VIP and aligns to your goal. You could do this smaller space for, and so that group would be allowed to network, interact with one another via chat, and engage with the moderator or the artist themselves. And so, you could give them access, approved access to webcams, so you can see a whole group of folks having a little bit of extra fun during the live show. And so our final play is a celebrity baking class, which in this instance, we have spec'd a hybrid online and offline play. And so we're going to focus on food and beverage here, and in particular cooking. So I know that there's folks from Sur La Table and Williams-Sonoma registered for this. So we'd love to see this type of hybrid experience being run by you guys. So this play needs an anchor celebrity to draw people in. And for this example, we've used YouTube creator Rosanna Pansino. So a little background on Rosanna. She broke into the world of what we call nerdy baking videos in 2011 with a cheap $80 camera and a boxed cake mix. So now she's become a celebrity chef in her own right, and one of the highest paid influencers on YouTube, according to Forbes magazine. So her YouTube channel has about 8.5 million subscribers. That's probably gone up since I pulled this data, and over 2 billion views. And amongst her fans are many thousands of kids who actually are eager to learn to bake and learn how to ice cakes and do beautiful artwork like this. So she's an ideal celebrity candidate to host online baking classes. And this online approach would help the brand reach new audiences. And the in-store class component here would help them build community and create really strong brand champions, folks that are already big fans of the brand who want to attend in person. So what we'd recommend here is that the celebrity should be fully remote, so that all classes, whether they're online or offline, are on a relatively level playing field. So what I mean by that is I would put the celebrity in a studio without an audience, so that the folks that are in the physical online class in store don't have any sort of advantage with engaging with that celebrity instructor. And so the studio moderator would be the one that would work with the presenter to make sure that they're engaging with questions, seeking feedback, and making sure that this audience feels they have that direct connection to the presenter. And so this is ideal for Zoom because you can also bundle in cake decorating, and you can also bundle in a direct mail or a sensory item to make sure that you're both adding revenue and also making this more interesting. And so what I like about this format is it supports multiple goals, the increasing reach and also driving more loyalty. And so let's jump in to see how this might work. So the setup is probably the most complex of anything that we've talked about today. And if trying to start this, I would go for a single store location over multiple for your first one. And so the online experience is actually pretty straightforward and could even be streamed to multiple platforms, like we mentioned with the John Legend concert example. But what makes this online experience impactful is the opportunity to have that purchase of the kit in advance by direct mail. So on the brand side, this would require a professional studio setup. So you're creating that level playing field for all attending, and really strong moderation for the celebrity to make sure they adjust their pace and respond to audience questions. So priority for the questions, I think, would be given to the teaching assistants who are in the in-store classes. And so because you've got one-to-many in that environment where you'd have surfacing questions from a classroom audience. That in-store experience could actually be the most fun, and could be accomplished in store once the teaching assistant would be mic'd up and connected into the live experience so they can interact with the host. This would provide a great opportunity for students to do some shopping pre and post experience as they're in store, and they could even be given coupons on arrival that could tie that purchase directly back to the experience. And you could report on that through an integration with your CRM. So this model definitely reminds me of kind of, I suppose, soccer and sports camps when I was younger. Sometimes when struggling to pick up a new skill in a bigger group, that one-to-one instruction makes things a lot easier. I think the experiential learning opportunity becomes very strong when you have that multisensory component, you have that group environment. I think this is one of the reasons why we're seeing classes surge in popularity as one of the most common types of virtual events. So that was a lot of content covered there, and I want to just run one more poll before we start to wrap for questions. So bear with me while I open this one up. So I'm launching this poll. So the question is, which play was most relevant to you? All right, so plenty of engagement here. Wine tasting seems to be very popular, but there's some stuff catching up. Going to try and get us to 150 for these responses. We're going to go in once, going twice, going 3 times. So I'm going to end that poll. So wine tasting was the most relevant, and I do think that's probably true. We've got a lot of folks from CPG brands on, you know, distilleries, beer brands, wine brands. So I'm not surprised that that's the most popular. So there's the results. So thank you for engaging with that poll again. It makes this far more engaging, and also gives us some more data points that we can share when personalizing or following up with you guys. So I will I'll start to wrap. So I think there's 4 takeaways I'd like to leave you with. And so the first one is that online experiences are here to stay. And so given the phased approaches that are going to be taken to reopening in the new year, and with consumer sentiment relatively unclear about what people are going to be comfortable to do when there is a vaccine, I think if you're not running online experiences yet, you need to start. 2, if you are running online experiences, try more advanced and multi-sensory experiences. And so these are going to help break through the Zoom fatigue that we talked about and deliver experiences that really change customer behavior and create real brand champions for you. 3, that test and learn approach is super important. So thinking like a scientist and using data and insights to iterate on the quality of your experiences is super important. Too many brands make big investments in online experiences with little to no insights, and they fail to iterate and improve on those and optimize them over time. And so finally, match the platform and technology that you're using to the tactics and goals that you're trying to achieve. So for example, don't use YouTube Live for a small intimate event, and where possible, always gate those experiences so you can capture that valuable first-party data. And I do think a lot of these online experiences are a very appropriate value exchange with consumers, and they are happy to give up their information for good quality content. So that is all of our material. I want to thank you all for attending. We're going to jump into questions. But before I do, I want to invite you to check out our new virtual events and online experiences playbook, which is effectively an ebook version of what we've just talked about and covered today. I'll leave that up on screen. And Jessie, I think we're going to jump into questions now.
Yes, thank you, Michael. Just wanted to address a couple of folks asked if this was going to be recorded and will the slides be available. Yes, we will send up a follow-up email to everyone here. It'll have a copy, a link to view the recording, link to view the slides, as well as all the blogs that Michael mentioned. We do have a question from Lauren asking, where do we access the blog? Again, all that link will be in the follow-up email, but if you want to access it now, it's on anyroad.com/blog. And if you wait until after this is over, you'll also be directed to that page. So our first question from Megan, this is a great question for you, Michael. Megan says that we're currently using an older platform, and while it works to collect the registration data, it's not modern, it's not eye-catching or exciting. So So are you able to provide any suggestions as how to speak to the budget managers as how to upgrade that platform?
It's a great question. This is where, the thinking like a scientist model comes in. So collecting data, setting out a business case or a hypothesis, but it also does think to your goal. If your goal is to drive direct revenue, you're going to need a method to capture payment. And so if your platform doesn't do that, there are platforms out there which allow you to capture payments. AnyRoad at Home is one of those. And so you can aim to try and do POCs and trials with some of these vendors. Some of them support them, although a lot of them are slammed right now and they prefer to get full commitments. But I do think is looking at the data that you have from the experiences that you've already run. So you can start looking at simple metrics like engagement and attendance and first-party database growth. So start looking at those leading indicators, those very simple metrics, and then try to look at what I would call correlated success. So if you don't have good integrations between your systems that can tell you what revenue or what impact they're having on the other company metrics, you can start to see if there's been a correlated lift in revenue or after an experience. So if you're selling product online, and all of a sudden we see a lift in sales after you've run an online experience, you can do some correlation there to help you dig deeper and make an investment. That's probably one that I need to understand a little bit more about your goals to give you more specific advice. And so again, moc@anyroad.com, ping me and I'll happily respond to you based on your situation.
Great. Yannick works for a luxury fashion designer and is interested in moving the hot couture culture online. Now, traditional e-commerce won't cut it. Do we have any cases or examples of luxury apparel that carried out a noteworthy experiential campaign? You should check out My Teresa or Net-a-Porter. So they did a great job of integrating the content with fashion plus education. So it's not just the transactional.
Yeah, I think there's some brands that are innovating out there. Our idea list has some luxury brands in there, and some of AnyRoad's customers are luxury brands. And so it depends on what your product is. So for haute couture and apparel and fashion, what we've seen is unboxings. Influencer marketing is a great team to partner with for those types of experiences. So you have influencers trying out products, reviewing them, and those can be gated behind live Q&A. So you could have a live Q&A with one of your celebrity influencers and invite people to attend that. And again, you capture that first party data. You have good quality content that can be reused afterwards on YouTube. And so you can hit those goals in multiple ways. But what you want to make sure for a luxury premium experience, it's got to be on brand. And so actually oftentimes making that exclusive, gating that can be very on brand for luxury.
And are there any days of the week that are most popular for people to join virtual events? I would say, according to a recent benchmark report from On24, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays are still the most popular days. However, the time of day varies and it depends on the virtual event that you're holding. If it's a happy hour, you don't want that at 10 a.m. or maybe you do, but it would completely depend on the type of event you're running.
And I actually just thought we should jump into our own data. We definitely have that data from I'd say million plus folks that have attended our online experiences this year. So, but Jesse is the expert on when to run these events, and so that's we decided to run today because it seems Wednesdays seem to be very popular for AnyRoads and our audience.
Also a question on the successful marketing goals that brands are using virtual classes to meet. That's also from David. I think there's not one success metric that is fitting for everyone. Everyone has their own goals. I think, Michael, if you want to go back to slide 12, this is where you touched on the types of events and the goals.
There we go. Yeah, I definitely think I think you hit the nail on the head there, Jesse. It really depends on what you're trying to achieve. I find that classes are probably the most versatile type of online experiences to run. Classes can be used at the top of the funnel, but also way down the bottom. And so a brand that I thought could really benefit from classes is Colgate. So they've launched a new Bright Smiles teeth whitening product. And so instructing users on how to whiten their teeth using their product could be a great upper funnel activity, but also it could be used post-sale by folks that are subscribers to that product. So if you wanted to get started, try classes. But again, unboxings up the top of the funnel, live music, concert experiences, tours and experiences for your brand loyalists. There's a bunch of different folks. And again, I think we have these listed out in the Playbook ebook that you can download, and you'll get a link to afterwards.
And of course, inquiring minds want to know, the question that you touched on is, should we charge for online experiences?
I think that it all depends, right? I think there is a market out there for premium high quality experiences. Because there's an absence of live music, there's an absence of these exclusive events. Most commonly, the online experiences that we see being charged for are private or exclusive experiences, like private tastings, private concerts, fitness classes. You know, recently, you know, I have a young daughter. We've been paying for, you know, $5 a class for private kids yoga classes, which has been very, very fun. So again, it's people are willing to pay for things if they're again, there's a value add for them. But I think most common amongst our customer base, and I also see in the market, is these private exclusive classes and tastings.
And my suggestion is that if you're just getting started, start out with a free event, take what you've learned and iterate on that. And this is exactly what Michael's stores did. They started with free online craft classes, and through the feedback, they found that people were willing to pay for more advanced classes, and now they have a mix of free and paid classes.
Absolutely.
Do we need separate licenses for all the platforms? AnyRoad, Zoom, Teams, GoToMeeting, and do you have an idea of the cost of each?
So when we look at online platforms, I'll take that. I'll deflect a little bit because on some of the pricing information, but yes, to work with AnyRoad's at-home product, which is it's really an open platform. We can integrate or work with any of the technologies for online streaming that are out there. We've opted to do that versus building our own product in-house because it gives our customers the maximum amount of flexibility in terms of what type of experience is best to reach their goals. We do recommend Zoom as the most versatile product to use, but we're also big fans of Teams, WebEx, Instagram Live, whatever. And so second answer is yes, you'll need a license to work with AnyRoad and Zoom. You'll need a license of both. There are products out there that offer standalone registration, streaming all in one. But the challenge with those folks is integrating that data with your full suite of all your use cases. So if you're running in-store classes as well as online ones, that data sits in two different silos, and pulling that together can be challenging. So if you have one platform for all your experiences, it's the benefit of having all that data in one place, a lot of consistency, and you can also start to benchmark easily the effectiveness of your experiences in one medium to another. There's a question there about pricing. Getting started with a product like Zoom can be cheap with the free with the time limit. We do recommend the webinar product. I think that's around starts at around $200 a month. AnyRoad's more expensive than that, and our pricing is custom. So if you are interested, please do reach out, and we can discuss pricing with you based on your needs. But again, there's such a wide variety of customers that we have, from very, very small distilleries to large folks that are classes that are running 20,000 online classes a year. That it wouldn't be fair to comment on pricing because it is very specific to your usage.
Great, we are at time, and I do want to answer one more question that came in, is how do you overcome the obstacle of variable shipping regulations? We did encounter this with our recent wine event, was that how do we get the wines to them? And we were at first thinking we're going to make this a global event, but then there was a time restriction and the shipping restriction. So my suggestion is to keep it simple. We found a wine provider that was able to ship nationally, with the exception of 3 states. So of course we did invite folks from those 3 states.
I want to make a quick comment on the shipping of alcohol products. I had this question from a friend who does virtual cocktail making classes. I think what Jesse said is very true. Start small, figure out, maybe run your online experience for a particular region or particular audience first, build a muscle of being able to execute that and find a partner, or even do the shipping yourself personally to a state that allows alcohol shipping. As you start to scale, you do need to invest in regional partnerships for distribution in some of those states where shipping alcoholic products is tricky. And so, we've seen folks partner with the likes of Drizzly or with independent distributors from state to state. So that all depends on your instance and your goals. And again, we're happy to discuss that with any of the customers to see what's possible. So I want to give Jesse a huge thanks for making sure that this event was a huge success, and thank you all on the line for attending. As Jesse said, we're going to have this recording available shortly after this webinar, so stay tuned to your emails for a follow-up, and we're delighted that you were able to join us today. Thanks all.
Sorry, Michael, not shortly after this. the email
tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah. Sorry, yeah. My bad. Shortly after for me is tomorrow. Thanks very much, all. Have a great rest of your week.